Over 35 years since the original, we finally got a sequel to Beetlejuice, but is it worth your time? Welcome Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Was it good, was it bad, or somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already, and join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But going right into the synopsis, upon a recent death in the family, 3 generations of the Dietz family reunite in Winter River. But as Lydia's life is still being overrun by Beetlejuice from her past, her life gets overturned when Astrid, her daughter, unleashes the juice. And getting right into it positive, overall there's a lot of different moments that you can just enjoy, have a good time with your family, or just by yourself throughout the experience of the film, and just having some nods to the original, but not taking too much threads to feel like it's a repetitive story of what we got before. It's continuing on, building on the hinges of Beetlejuice as a character, getting some of his backstory, some of his past motivations, and ideas that it's just fun to be had. You get a few laughs here and there, just carrying on the story and what we get from Winona Ryder, Jenny Ortega, William Dafoe. The cast goes on. It's a great cast, and of course Michael Keaton shines as Beetlejuice once again. It's not filled to the brim with Beetlejuice because he's still meant to be that limited character where his presence is better when he's sort of in the background and also just appearing here and there when the moment strikes, when it works for the film. And so there's multiple different subplots which carry on their own essence, build upon their own stories that are interesting, and creates a great atmosphere that's spooky. It is a seasonal film that can be watched at any time, but can still put you in the spooky movie mood to be able to watch this experience and carry on from the first Beetlejuice, which I was never a huge fan of. I never had a huge attachment to that film, but this one still lends itself well, and neither of them feel particularly bad for what they have to offer, and carrying on with the name. And William Dafoe plays the detective, and there's sort of a sense of a mystery with what they're going as he's investigating the past girlfriend for Beetlejuice, and how that all gets involved with the plot, as well as these other subplots and ideas with his past girlfriend. And that scene, the opening scene for introducing that, is just a great scene to be had, and you'll just see it when you get to watch it if you haven't already, that it's a great balance of the creepiness while not being too scary, but a great stop motion style idea of building up her character literally, and just building upon some of the ideas, backstories, and having a few black and white sequences to show the flashbacks of Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice past life and how we're building upon all of these characters as a whole. There's some great family themes that are just blended in throughout, ideas of belief and just knowing how to trust each other, trust family members, and being able to forgive others for their past mistakes. And just so the flow of the story is decently well, and I had a good time with the film overall. And going right into the mixed elements, now there's a question of whether this is good for families and being a family fun film like the original. There is one curse word, the F word, that is bleeped out, so it's not necessarily a film that I would particularly show to anyone that's really young or 6 and under. Maybe once you're starting to be able to understand how to treat your kids, or watch it for yourself as an adult if you're a parent, and then be able to show them it. But there's some moments where there's a flow that isn't always perfect. There's ideas that just doesn't feel like the exact original, but it's not supposed to replicate it to a T. And so just generally what your respect is on the original, you may have a same or better experience with this one, depending on what your opinion on the original is. If you fit well with the original, maybe you'll like this one, or it maybe not compare just as well to what you're getting within this one. And that leads me into the negatives, to which I have to say, as much as I like several different moments of the film, it sometimes feels like it's overstuffed with different subplots. There's the wedding, there's other instances of building upon the characters, there's the family moments, there's Beetlejuice's story and his backstory, how we're building on his ex-girlfriend, while also getting the sequence with the detective trying to track down his ex-girlfriend, and multiple other things that are just going on that create a lot of good moments that aren't necessarily bad ideas for their own means, but it almost feels like an anthology of stories that are compiled together, not necessarily meant to be going intermixed and well edited after each other, but ultimately their own stories. But because it's multiple sequences that are parallel and going on at once, it almost has to be this one story. But unfortunately, they didn't cut out any of the subplots that make it easier to track, easier to dial it down, and be able to build more of the substance of one subplot over the other that could make it a bit more interesting, a bit more deep within how it's exploring its themes, how it's exploring the fun, and being able to track it better with a quicker pace. And while it isn't a particular bad way of editing what they're doing, there's also some instances within those subplots where you follow along, and you may be following this one instance, and then 30 minutes later, that sort of instance or that character story shows up again, and so it almost makes you have to recall what happened 30 minutes before. And so just how that is balanced in throughout, it's not particularly bad. It's not necessarily something you totally disregard, because it still has its own fun moments, but as a complete package, it does pull back a little bit on the pacing and everything that just carries the film forward as a whole. And so that's just my personal review for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, which I have to rate a personal 6.5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Let me like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're ready to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. And so that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.